We have moved on to the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. And of course, the BetSided team is here to go through our favorite early leans and best bets of the week for Saturday and Sunday slate. Ben Heisler with my guys, Ian McMillan, Peter Dewey, Reed Wallach. No Donovan Smoot, unfortunately, today, but we know that he's probably cooking up a nice underdog pick for a little bit later on this weekend. So we're going to go around the horn four-man team today, go through our favorite early lean of the week in the divisional round. And Ian, once again, I will start with you. You're taking a look at the Sunday night game between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, with the Bills right now 2.5-point dogs and a nice high total of 55 points. Who you got?
Give me the Buffalo Bills, and I'm not even going to take the points. Give me them on the money line. I believe that right now at WinBet, it's plus 112. They are going to beat this Chiefs team. Both offenses extremely comparable, but people have stopped talking about how bad the Chiefs defense is. I know they obviously picked it up a little bit to close out the year as opposed to how bad they were at the start of the year, but still 28th in the NFL in opponent yards per play. The Buffalo Bills have the best defense, the best secondary in the NFL, and you can't argue that fact. That's an objective fact. Go look at the stats: yards per pass attempt, opponent average team passer rating. The Buffalo Bills are the best defense in the NFL. Chiefs rank near the bottom. Both offenses are the same, so it's a wash on that end. Bills already beat them this season. Give me the Bills on the money line, plus 112.
All right, we got an underdog to kick things off on the money line. Very, very fun. Peter, I head to you next. Another underdog on the books with the Cincinnati Bengals 3.5-point dogs on the road against the number one seeded Tennessee Titans in the AFC. Why lean on the Bengals here?
Yeah, well, Public Pete was debating about making an appearance this week, but I decided I'm going to roll with my team, the Bengals, who I have to win the AFC, like we talked about a few weeks ago. I'm backing them again because I just don't really think this Titans team is that good. They're not great against the pass defensively. They've allowed the 8th most passing yards in the NFL this season. We know the Bengals, their offense, high-octane offense. They got Jamar Chase, got T. Higgins, got Tyler Boyd. Joe Burrow is going to sling it, and he looks really, really good. Look really good to end the season. Look good against the Raiders. I like the Bengals coming into this game. The injuries on the Bengals defensive line does concern me. Trey Hendrickson obviously being the big name there. But if he is able to play, or if the Bengals are able to muster up a replacement for him, they had the 5th best run defense in the NFL this season. They allowed just 4.3 yards per carry as well. So yes, Derrick Henry is going to be back, but do we know what Derrick Henry is going to be back? Is he going to play every play? Is he going to look healthy? Is he going to be the same player that we were talking about as the best running back in the NFL? I'm not sure. If he's not that guy, it takes away from the Titans' play action pass, and it takes away their best weapon on offense. I think the Bengals are live to win this game, but I'm just going to take them plus 3.5. I think they definitely keep this close. Give me Cincinnati.
All right, Bengals plus 3.5 for Peter. Reed, I head to you next. The lone winner on last week amongst our best bets with the 49ers plus 3, and you are going right back to the well again with the 49ers plus 6 against the number one seeded Green Bay Packers at a cold night at Lambeau Field with a total sitting at 47.5. What's the play here?
Yeah, plus 6, money line, Niners all the way. If you look at pretty much all advanced analytics, the Niners are actually the better team. They are 6th in DVOA. The Packers are 9th. The Packers have the 3rd worst rush defense. Listen, I understand Jimmy Garoppolo has a bum shoulder. He's got a torn thumb. I understand that, but the Niners are going to be able to run all over this Packers defense that, like I just said, is the 3rd worst in EPA per rush. When these two teams met earlier this season, the Packers squeaked out a win, but guess who didn't play? Elijah Mitchell. He had 90-plus yards rushing last week. Deebo Samuels, he didn't line up at whatever position we're calling him now, wide back. He wasn't there yet. So this is a revamped Niners team. They're going to be able to run the ball all over them. We saw Cleveland almost do it against them. We saw Baltimore almost do it against them. This Packers team has been ripe for an upset, and the Niners are going to hand it to them on Saturday. No doubt about it. Niners with the points, money line, and I think the Niners are going to the Super Bowl.
Wow. Niners to the Super Bowl. You heard it first here on BetSided's video. As for me, I'm going to not focus on an underdog. I'm not going to focus on anything like that. Instead, I'll go to that game that Peter referenced a little bit earlier between the Bengals and the Titans. I like the over. 47 in that game feels a bit too low for two offenses that I think are finally really in a point where they're hitting their stride over the course of the year. Listen, if Derrick Henry is back, we don't know whether or not it's going to look like Cam Akers from a week ago, where all of a sudden he looked completely explosive coming off a pretty severe injury, or if it's more of a decoy, but they still have Deontay Foreman, who's had 100-yard games in 2 of his last 4 matchups. They're running the ball effectively, and now just having the presence of Henry in the backfield is going to open up the offense for Ryan Tannehill to take shots down the field with A.J. Brown. Anthony Firkser, their tight end's been more involved. Julio Jones has actually been able to stay on the field as well. And then you look on the Cincinnati side, they were able to play a very strong game against the Raiders and did it without basically anything from T. Higgins, who's been their most consistent wide receiver in the second half of the season. So you factor in the ability to have Jamar Chase go up against the Titans defense that's been better at rushing the quarterback, but being able to make sure that they spread everybody out wide. The Bengals did that a ton against the Raiders last week. I just think you're going to see plenty of points in this game. And it's also the only game on the schedule that's not a rematch from earlier in the season. Normally, these rematch games tend to be a little bit more defensive oriented. You know what a lot of these teams are running. The offenses are a little bit more familiar. I just think you're going to see plenty of points and good weather in Nashville to back things up as well. Nice sunny day, probably around the mid-40s or so between the Bengals and the Titans. All right. Those are our best bets and early lanes for the week. For plenty more content, information, news, notes, whatever you might need for the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, make sure you guys check us out, fansided.com/betsided. Also, we are on social media as well, at BetSided on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And by the way, we're keeping track of all of our picks throughout the course of the year. Now 46-48-0 against the spread as we look to rebound from a wild card weekend last week.